As I said, when you get older, you learn a few things, or hopefully you do. One thing that I've learned is that as I have gotten older, I get a lot more joy out of giving gifts at Christmas time. Oh man, to see children, many of my nephews and even my own kids at their age, open a gift, watch the smile on their face, the joy that comes from them, the expression of happiness. Nothing really can compete with that sense. Giving is so important. And I think giving is somewhat grown out of a continuum. When we come into this world, it's all about receiving. We have very real needs, and we're in a lot of trouble if there's not someone around totally focused on meeting our needs, giving us exactly what we need. The secret is to move along that continuum and become a giver. And if you were blessed, as I've been, there were people along the way who nudged you on, who taught you a lot about giving and how important that is in life and what that might mean for you. Well, every December in elementary school, when I grew up and when my kids came along, part of the weekly rhythm was to take time from the class to work on Christmas gifts. We were making to take home to our parents the last day of school before vacation, and how very wise it was to take time to do just that. It taught us a lesson more than how to be a crafty person. It taught us the joy that we would gain from giving. The gifts themselves didn't amount to much, quite frankly. I received a fair number myself over the years. The imprint of a child's hand pressed into wet plaster of Paris and painted light blue was a very popular gift. Some of you may have gotten something like that. A popsicle stick pencil holder held together with glue and a red ribbon stood on my desk for years. Hot pads, pot holders, and those wonderful tree ornaments with a picture of a beautiful first grade face smiling out from those pine needles in that special ornament. Wow. They meant a lot. And it was a wise thing to take kids through just that kind of experience. My personal favorite was a Yule log candle holder that we were asked to make when I was in school, and I was so excited about that Yule log, taking that home, hiding it so it wouldn't be found until that glorious first morning on Christmas Day. Miss Adams had a picture of what it was supposed to look like, probably from one of those Ideas magazines, long before Martha Stewart made it all so complicated. The school janitor took the boys to our Lincoln Elementary School basement, where he proceeded to saw trunks of pine trees. Those branches had already been cut for the classroom decoration into 1 foot lengths. We were each given one and patiently taught how to bore 3 holes in the log with a brace and bit. Man, was that something. What an adventure. The girls, I recall, were left in the classroom making potholders. Something I doubt would happen today. I think the girls would be right along making those Yule logs, but, that was the day and age we lived then. The problem was that many of the logs, mine included, refused when we put the candles, the 3 candles in with the red ribbon to be tied around them. Those candles, for whatever reason, didn't stay up straight. They refused. They were inserted, and instead, for mine especially, the one on the right side listed all the way, almost falling out of the holder. And I remember the janitor, Beverly Gardner was his name, making small wedges of pine to put beneath those logs to make them stable. And finally he said, "Fellas, they really look nice just like they are. Maybe you shouldn't light them." And I think that was probably true. It was a treasured memory in our home. It's the day our 6-year-old Sarah was taken in her school Christmas store to run by Parent and Teachers Association. They came home with their gifts, helped them wrap and hide them, and then were told carefully that it was a secret. They shouldn't tell anyone that they'd purchased and wrapped that gift. Well, it was all a little too much for Sarah. I was trying to read a magazine, I recall, and she came in to me and said, "Daddy, I bought you a present, but I can't tell." "Well, that's nice," I said, and went back to the magazine. A few minutes later, she was back again. "I bought you a nice present, but it's a surprise, and I can't tell you." "Oh, okay." I returned to the magazine. It happened a few more times, and the pressure was building. And finally she said, "Please, Daddy, don't look under my bed and find those socks that I bought for you." How wise and good it is to learn to give, and how very important, essentially, actually, to our wholeness as human beings, our health. At the end of the day, our deepest joy. Learning how to give and love turns out to be very fundamental to our humanity.